Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about the NCCT exam. Figure that it would be a good time to start talking about it since we're really getting into more coding. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And as you guys know, my name is Cynthia Bennett, and we're going to get started. So the organization that gives the exam is NCCT. The name of the certification you guys will be doing is the NCICS. And this is a detailed test. And basically, they've talked to different employers, and this is some of the competencies that the employers felt that was necessary to do billing and coding. So on the test, there are actually 100 questions. You'll have 3 hours to take the exam, and you're going to need a passing score of 70 to pass the exam. So it'll be 3 hours with 100 questions, and it'll be passing score of 70. So here are some of the things that are going to be on the exam. You'll have 25 questions that are related to insurance, 26 questions that are related to medical billing, 33 questions related to coding, and then 16 questions related to law and ethics. So as you guys can see, it is a broad range of topics that are covered on the actual exam. Most of the other exams cover the same group of questions, but they may be a little bit more extensive, just depending on which exam you're thinking about considering other than this one. So many people will actually have more than one certification. I recommend that you get more than one certification, but to start off, you get the one through NCCT. So we're going to focus a little bit on the coding section so you'll know kind of what to expect. There's actually 3 sections that is in the coding area. You have your ICD-10, you'll have CPT, and you'll have HCPCS. So those are the 3 sections that are covered in coding. So these are the things that they're looking at. They're looking at your ability to abstract data from the medical record and then assign the CPT code. They're also looking at sequencing. So I want to bring this up a little bit. Some of you guys, when you're doing some of the tests and they'll mark the question wrong if you have the correct codes, but they're in the incorrect sequence. And even though it's talking about CPT right now, this applies to CPT and ICD-10 as far as sequencing. Technically, the code should be in the correct order because as you can see, this is one of the things that they look at. So I just wanted to bring that up because I know sometimes you guys may have the correct code, but it's not in the correct sequence. Also, being able to apply the CPT guidelines for that code section. And as you go more and more into coding, it's very important that you start to grasp using the guidelines because sometimes you could find the right code and thinking that you have the right answer, but if you're not using the guidelines correctly, and especially in surgery, this is where it becomes very important that you are choosing the correct code and looking at those guidelines. So the whole goal is not for you to remember codes. It's knowing how to use your coding manuals. Nobody's ever going to remember every single code. So keep that in mind that the goal of it is for you to learn how to use guidelines and then not only how to use them, but then how to apply them to the different scenarios that you'll come across. They'll also be looking at you applying modifiers as well. So I thought it was good that I start to share some of this information to see, so you can see why we're focusing on it so much, because these are some of the things that you're going to have to know in order for you to pass your exam. In most cases, it's going to be very difficult to get a job without being certified. So it's very important that, you know, you get certified. So in order for that to happen, you know, you have to make sure that you understand what you're doing throughout the course. So they'll also be looking at HCPCS. Again, you're looking at the medical records and then your ability to be able to assign the codes. A lot of times when you take these tests, there's another thing I like to bring up is that you'll only be allowed to take in there your coding manuals, and that's it. There's no phone, no websites, no nothing. You just have the books, and either if it's on paper or if it's on a computer, and that's all that you'll be able to have. Same thing if you do it at home. I believe you can take this one at home. Not 100% sure, but in some circumstances you may be able to do it at home. But again, you'll have your camera on and the same rules apply. So just to let you know that get very comfortable with your coding manuals, because that's all you're going to have. You're not going to have access to anything else. Also, again, sequencing according to coding guidelines. So the same rules apply here in HCPCS as well. Applying the guidelines from each section. And then also applying modifiers if needed. So again, you can make little notes in your book. I suggest you do it in pencil. Don't make too many notes, but you can make some notes. It just depends on who's the proctor of the exam. Some of them will check your book, some of them won't. Some of them will say you only can have a little bit, a lot. So if you just keep it to a minimum, then you should be okay. Same thing with ICD-10. You're going to be looking at the medical record and then abstracting the data and then assigning the codes. Sequencing is also mentioned here as well. And if you notice that they're bringing this up in all of the different sections, so that's letting you know that they are looking at these things. So just keep it in mind. Same thing with the guidelines. And then determine when signs and symptoms should be used. So sometimes this is the one area with ICD-10 that people get hung up on, is the signs and symptoms. So you can make notes in your ICD-10 as well. This where medical dictionary is helpful now, but of course you won't be able to use it in your actual exam. But signs and symptoms is one of the areas that hang students up, and you haven't really encountered a whole lot of those situations yet, because it really comes into play when you get into more detail, like surgery, more extensive E&M notes. This is where you're going to find where it kind of gets a little gray, whether you use signs or symptoms or to use the actual disease. So just be careful in this area as far as with the ICD-10. Okay. So any questions about what I just reviewed, the exam, what to expect?
Will we be able to use a medical dictionary?
Not doing an exam, no.
Okay.
Now, in the beginning of your book, it does give you some information. I believe it's the ICD-10 that gives you a little bit of medical terms and things like that. So you can use that. You can use whatever is in the manual. So you can use anything that's in there. That's why it's really important that you start to use it and get very comfortable with it. Because remember, it sounds like it's a lot of time. You're getting 3 hours to do 100 questions, but you may have some questions where you're looking for CPT and ICD-10. And so it's going to take a little while longer, because you're looking for 2 codes and not just one. And then if there's a modifier to add on top of that, and then if it's a long note, how long it's going to take you to read the note. So the more that you are comfortable with your books, your coding manuals, the easier that it will be, like when you're going through these exams. So that's why I kind of, say get comfortable with your books. And I think I see something in the chat. Will we get like a study guide before the exam, or we'll just have to kind of use our notes? There's no actual, study guide that we give you. I believe there's one that may be on the website that you can buy, but as far as the school, I don't think that they actually go to NCCT and get an actual quote unquote study guide.
Okay, I was looking at Amazon earlier. They have one and it covers all 3 books. It's a practice exam, but it was for another kind. Is that what we need? Like, would Amazon have what we need to study for this?
You can get a study guide from Amazon, but just make sure you get in the one that comes from the NCCT website. Because each, like, for example, the CPC, Certified Professional Coder, that one is more extensive than this one. So you won't need that much, as much information. So that's why I say look at, make sure that it's going to cover the exam that you are actually going to take.
So that's the only one Unitech is going to provide us.
Yes. As
Okay,
far as I know that they prepare you for the NCCT exam.
So if we want to take like the AA or whatever, I can't remember. Yes, ma'am.
You can take it.
We're on our own though. We just
Right.
take what we learned, and you can probably get a book about it or whatever.
I didn't hear the last part you said. Say that again.
You can probably get a study guide like on Amazon or for that one too, or the site.
Yes.
Okay. Which ones do you recommend that we get, the certifications?
Well, it depends on what type of coding or what type of job you're looking to get. So this one here through NCCT, this one is mainly for like working in a physician office or doing like professional based, billing and coding. If you want to do something like in a hospital, then I recommend that you get one through the organization AHIMA, which is AHIMA. Their certifications are geared more to hospital-based type of services. The other one is the AAPC, which they also offer certifications. Theirs is more geared to professional services like doctor's offices, outpatient hospital, more professional-based services. So they all kind of, it just depends on what you're actually trying to do. And that's, will determine which exam, which certification will be best. Now, some people get certifications from all 3. I know people that have them from all 3 because, it just depends on what you want to do.
I want to have whatever will give me the best job.
So, and again, so it just, depends. Now, some people, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm biased because I prefer professional side, but that's because that's what I learned. I learned in a physician office, so that's why I have the CPC. So that's why I say I'm a little biased, but some people, they want to work in a hospital. So they'll go for those ones that are through AHEMA. So, and then, like I said, I know many people that do both. They'll get one from here, one from NCCT, they'll get one from AHEMA, and then they'll get one from the AAPC. Because then that way they'll cover, you covering all your bases. So it just depends on, what you're looking for.
Okay,
now, the other ones are more extensive. They're a lot more involved.
Okay, I have one more question. If I would want to work online at home, which one do I need? Which one do they more recommend you have?
Again, it's going to go by, it's not necessarily the location, it goes by what you're coding. So most hospitals, if you're going to work for them, they want you to get one of those certifications that's through AHEMA. But they will take some of the other certifications as well. So maybe another area that you can take a look at is look for some billing and coding jobs and see, what are they asking for. The most common ones that I see a lot is the CPC and the CCS or CCSP. I see those asked for a lot. But again, it just depends on what you're doing. But I have seen where they're looking for the one through NCCT as well.
So they have one called CCS too?
Say that again?
Is it CCS, the other one you said?
Yes.
Okay.
So CCS is outpatient hospital. CCSP, which is through the same AHEMA, the P is for professional. Okay. Which is the equivalent. So CCSP is the equivalent of the CPC.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. The biggest difference in between those two is that the CPC is actually, I believe, is longer. So CPC, you get 5.5 hours and it's 150 questions. CCS, I think there's 100 questions and I think you get 4 hours. So like I said, it just depends on, what is it that you're looking to do. But all great questions. And so you can't go wrong. I mean, they're going to give you the NCCT one. Just I would get that one and then, move on to others if that's what you're really looking for. Or you can get the NCCT one, work for a while, and then decide which way you want to go with it. Some people will get some of these certifications while they're actually working. So that many people do that. They'll get them, once they start working, because then they'll have a better idea of where they want to go. The biggest thing is if you want to work remote and that's working from home basically, is not so much which certification. You have to be very disciplined and be good at analyzing things, working independently, and using your resources. Because remember, it's not like you can go next door and go ask somebody a question. I mean, sure, you can call them or email them, but the benefit of being in the office is a lot of times you can just walk over and ask somebody a question. So just making sure, you're able to work independently. Okay, any other questions? So for what we're working on this week, the E&M coding, most of your specialties will touch on, will have some E&M coding. So if you work for a cardiologist, for example, you're going to have E&M coding. If you work for primary care, you're going to have E&M coding. E&M coding can be, it seems like it's very straightforward, but as you start getting into more complex cases, that's where you're going to start to have some issues. And this is where people kind of get hung up, especially on the medical decision making and on the type of exam. So make sure that you are you understand those. Go back over them to make sure that you understand them, because this is that's where I see people get hung up at, is on the medical decision making and then the physical exam. So just going back, making sure that you got a good understanding on, how to use those. And so now you're at the stage where you're starting to build on top of what you already know. So it's important, try not to fall too far behind, because as you notice that, you're getting a little bit more work, it's getting a little bit more intense. So just try not to fall too far behind, because when you're trying to learn multiple sections at once, because you're falling behind and you're trying to catch up, that's when you're going to have a harder time, being able to remember the different areas of each of the sections of the book. So then you just start to just, go over the surface, and you're not really, going in deep to really understand the different areas. So try and catch up. I know that life happens, but this is one of the areas you don't want to fall too far behind, because now you're really getting into the nuts and bolts of, what it's going to be like every day on a job. So we want to make sure that, you guys are comfortable and you know it. There's no magic way of getting good at coding other than practice. The more you do it, the better you'll get. There's no magic bullet. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get good, is by practice. So even though I don't assign the whole chapter, you can do the whole chapter. Like I said, the more you do it, the better you'll get. And that's the best, way of going forward with it. You're not going to memorize everything, so don't try to memorize every code. What you want to do is make sure that you understand your book, you're able to go to the sections, and you know how to use it. That's probably what's going to be most important, is, being able to use the book and knowing how to apply the information to each section. So if you really want to be a coder, pay attention, pay attention to details, reading the full note until you get comfortable with it. If there's a shortcut, I will tell you. But if you want to be good, because I can tell by some of the things that I'm getting that people are not reading instructions, just simple things. They're not giving me what the question is. So that tells me that you're not reading. So you got to read. And if you're going to work remote, you have to read, because remember, how you're getting the information is your supervisor is going to email it to you, or they're going to tell you to go to a website. So you have to read. Reading, and I mean, we laugh about it, but reading is fundamental. You have to read. And I noticed that some people aren't doing that. So starting to get in a habit of reading, put aside enough time to be able to do your assignments. Because if you're not doing that, if you're skimming the surface, I never understood this until I actually started teaching. But when I was in college, one of the professors said, people don't mind cheating themselves out of their education. And I didn't understand what he really meant then. I was like, what? So, but then as time went along, I understood what he meant. So it's really on you. So you know how much you're studying, so you can get A's on everything. But at the end of the day, the proof is going to be in the pudding on whether you can pass that test. So this is where the rubber is going to meet the road. So that's why I'm emphasizing it. You're spending money, you're investing in your education, so use it. You got all the tools that you need. You just need to, dedicate the time to be able to complete your assignments and not just gloss over. This is not a subject that you can gloss over. The coding is very detailed. It's not just, surface stuff. No, it's very detailed. So get in the habit of blocking out time. One of the things that I tell a lot of students is managing your time is going to be very important. So if you don't have a lot of time, it's okay. If you only got 30 minutes, then take that 30 minutes and just, focus on one or two areas. Use the resources that I put out in the classroom. I actually emailed a video and I gave you an assignment with the video. Those are very good. The lady is actually going over the chapters. She's showing you. So it's very detailed and I know that it works. So that's why I didn't even bother about going over E&M today because you've had it already twice. So I'm not going to focus on that anymore because you already got it in the assignments that I had already chose for you. So that's why I didn't really focus on it. So use the PowerPoints. If you cannot read the chapter, if you don't do anything else, look at the PowerPoints. I purposely put it in the coursework this week so you can see it. So you'll have chapter 11. It is, I think, almost 100 slides in there. I know that it's a large one. So take the time, look at it. When you have the time, if you don't have a whole lot of time, look at it in pieces, take it in smaller chunks. It's 151 slides. So I know that it is very large, but in order for you to, do coding correctly, these are the things that you need to be able to invest in. So like I said, take it in smaller chunks. If you can't sit there, well, my attention span is not long enough, so I don't try to study anything. Some people can sit there for 4 and 5 hours. No, I can't do it. So whenever I study, I like to do it in smaller chunks because you're able to retain the information longer if you do it in smaller chunks. So take advantage of it. I put it out there. So I'm reminding people as well that it's there. Use it. You've paid for it. Use it. So if you need any others that I haven't added out there, you can just ask me for them and I'll put them out there. But I think I've put most of them out there. But use the PowerPoints as well to look at them for later. And you can download them and just keep them. You don't have to use them all now. Like, let's just say if you read the book and maybe you want to go and study, you asked me about a study guide, the PowerPoint is a perfect thing that you can use to study. So you can download them and keep them for later. So you don't have to use everything right this moment. Download it and keep it for later because you probably won't have access to it after you finish your program. So yes, so I just shared my screen again. So here it is. Chapter 11 is 151 slides. So like I said, at minimum, at least review the slides, but you should be reading the chapter as well because it'll help you. But download these slides, keep them for later so that when you go and you want to study for your exam, you can just take the PowerPoint slides and use that as one thing that you can use to study. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so just reiterating, read your chapter, use your resources, make sure you're doing your daily assignments. I get some that none of the daily assignments have been done. It's up to you. A lot of the things that are on your daily assignments are things that you're going to need anyway, so that you're going to code correctly, make sure that you're doing them. If you don't have them done by Sunday, then I'm not going to accept them. So make sure you're doing your daily assignments. You have until Sunday to submit them. And then if you don't have Google Docs, or I'm sorry, Microsoft Office, you can use Google Docs. And then just make sure you don't miss too many assignments. Too many zeros will pull your grade down. It will pull your GPA down. You don't want to get to the end of your program and now you got a GPA of like 1.5 and you need a 2.0. So you're going to have to start repeating classes. So you don't want to do that. So make sure you don't get too many zeros. You're better off getting a low score than to get a zero. Zeros are not good. So try not to get too many zeros.
I have one more question.
Yes.
Is it a good idea, like in our ICD-10 and our CPT and our hate picks or whatever, is it a good idea to learn the guidelines, like memorize the guidelines of each book? Or
you don't have to like memorize them, but review them.
It'll explain the books, how they work, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so you may be picking the right
I'm
code
having a
every
hard
time.
time. I'm having a hard time with the CPT. So
well, you just getting into it, and that's what the step-by-step textbook is for, because what the textbook actually does is take the information from, for example, the CPT manual, and it breaks it down for you. That's why I always say when you're reading your ebook, it's a good idea to have your CPT manual with you so that you can, when they're talking about certain areas of the CPT book, that you can actually then, while you're reading it, open it up and see what they're talking about.
Do. Yeah,
right.
that's
and then it makes it a little bit more easier to apply what you're actually learning. But what I would do is before, like for example, this week you're doing E&M, just focus on the first part. I just grabbed my manual, the E&M section, the first part. You want to make sure that you read that part of it, even though some of it is already in your ebook, but it's also at the beginning of the chapter where the guidelines are. So at the beginning of each chapter, there's guidelines, and then there's guidelines at the beginning of each subsection as well. So you have more than one set of guidelines. So make sure that you're, looking at those guidelines before you code that area. So we're spending, a week on E&M. So that's why I say, use your ebook along with your CPT manual, and then that will help as well. Look at the videos that I'm also sending. I think that one is an hour for the E&M section. So you have that as well. So kind of use both of them to kind of help you. And then if you haven't done so already, you can also tab your book. This one, mine's happen to be color coded, so that'll help you too, to get to the different sections a lot easier. So that's some of the biggest, things that you have to do is, dedicate the time. That's probably the biggest factor, is dedicating the time to be able to complete, the reading, and then applying, the rules, and then, actually practicing doing the coding. But reading is going to be very important. One of the ones that people get hung up a lot is on, for example, the new patient. A patient is new as long as they haven't been seen in that practice for at least 3 years. After 3 years, if it's 5 years later and that patient comes back to that practice and they haven't seen any doctor that's a part of that practice, that's now a new patient again. You can bill for that. So that's in, the guidelines. So you have to make sure that, you're going in and reading those guidelines for each of the sections. So this week, just focus on E&M, look at your slides as a review, and that'll kind of help you to, get a better hold on it. So that's why you're learning it in, by sections, and then you're actually getting the same information in multiple different ways. So you're getting it in your daily question, you're getting it in your reading, you're getting it in your assignments, you're getting it in the videos. So that's to help solidify, that you're learning and obtaining the information. So if you may not get it the first time, but you'll pick it up maybe in a video, or you'll pick it up when you're reading, or you'll pick it up when you're looking at the slides. So that's done intentional so that it's redundant, so that it will be solid and you understand it and you'll know right away. Like I know, I don't even have to look in the book. The patient hasn't been seen in the last 3 years, I can bill for it. Because that's just something that, I kind of just already know just by redundancy. So even though if it feels like it's redundant, it's okay, because you're going to look at it again when you go to study for the, for the exam. So those are the things that are going to make you better. This is a great career. I used to manage over 70 people in a business office. The people that make it in this industry are the ones who take the time to apply what they're learning. I have a lady that I just got finished working with. She's making about $80,000 a year. She has no college degree, but she has about 5 different certifications. That's all that she has. She doesn't even have a college degree, but she applied herself. And so it's up to the individual that, how far you're going to make it. But it's there. It's there for you to, the opportunity is there. So take advantage of it. And you may not, don't be overwhelmed. The biggest part is, like I said, taking the time to study. Because if you try to do everything on Sunday night, you're going to be frustrated. I can tell you right now, this is not the type of work that you can do and think that you're just going to just do it on Saturday and Sunday and it's just going to stick. It's not going to happen. And I'm just being honest with you. It's not going to happen. You've got to, do, and you don't even have to do it 5 days a week. If you say, I'm going to set out 3 days a week and I'm going to do my assignments, that might work. But to say I'm not going to look at a book, I'm not going to do nothing other than on Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be very difficult. A business degree, you might could do that. Because it's not as analytical as reading a patient chart. But doing coding, you're not going to be able to do it. You got to set aside the time. Like I said, if you only got an hour, 30 minutes. My last year, I did 2 years worth of college in 1 year. So I've been where you guys are now. I did it with 2 small children. But this is before online. I used to have my books everywhere with me. I carried them with me. Not CPT and all of that, but I carry my textbook with me. So if I was waiting, I had an appointment, I'm waiting 30 minutes, I was reading. On my lunch, because I used to do work in a doctor's office, at my lunch, I was, using some of that time to study. And that's how I got good. So it can be done. It can be done. Even so, I've done it. I'm speaking, I got tired and I said, I'm graduating. I don't care what you say. People are coming to the college, graduating, and I was still there. So I did 2 years in 1 year. I wasn't even planning on getting a bachelor's degree. I went there for an associate's in medical practice management. It took me 4 years to get the associate's, 1 year to get a bachelor's, and 2 years to get a master's. And I did them all back to back to back because I was afraid that if I stopped, I would never finish. And because I saw so many people that kept coming and going and coming and going, but just put in the time, and this is a very rewarding career. So I want you guys to be able to get a job at the end of the day. And that's why I'm emphasizing it more, because I know what's just waiting for you on the other side, because I did it for 20 years. And then I got tired of it and said, I want to do something different. So it's a very rewarding career if you just put the time in. And I'm getting concerned because of what I'm seeing. So that's why I said, let me spend some time on this so that you guys really understand, you know, that it can be done. You just gotta you know, and I know life happens. I just told you I had 2 young children, so I know. And I worked full time majority of the time. But I had no life either because I mean I was always studying, and so but it paid off. It will pay off. So just sacrifice for the next couple months, and then you know you'll be able to get it. And that's what I want you guys to do, is to be able to finish your program and then be able to get a job. There are people out here who go to college, they go to school, and they're not able to get a job. And some of it is because they can't pass this certification. So that's why I'm really harping on it, because I don't want that to happen. This certification is not that hard. The CPC is hard. I know people that's taken it 7 times, but I took it twice. But this one that you guys are studying for, this one is not as difficult as that one. So this is actually good, because it's preparing you to then be able to take one that's more complex. And they're using the same exact books that for the CPC or the CCS, the same exact book. So it's not that they have different material. It's the same books. So nothing is different. They use this step-by-step book, just like you guys have. So you got access to all the resources that you need. Okay, anything else? And you guys can do a study group with yourselves. So I'm just throwing out different things that you can do. Sometimes students learn better from each other. So if you want to do that, I'm not opposed to you guys doing that. You can do it on Google Hangout, or you can do it on Zoom, wherever. So if you guys want to start a group, you can do that, or one other person, you can do that as well. So just throwing out some tips there to kind of help you. Don't be discouraged. You will be smiling when you're done. Trust me. If I wouldn't tell you a story, it can be done, but you got to apply yourself. Okay, so that's all that I have for today, unless you guys got any other questions. Oh, and don't forget about the discussion board. That's the other area that I'm not seeing a good amount of participation. Remember, that's still a part of your program, not me. This is what the college has set up for you guys. So make sure you're doing it, because if you get a 0, remember what I said, the more zeros you get, it's going to keep pulling down your grade.
Miss Cynthia, I did it, but I don't know if I did it right.
I'll look at yours when we're done.
Okay. And the best way, if we have questions, is through email to get a hold to you?
Or through or texting.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, well, that's it. That's all that I have for this week. And anything else comes up, I'll let you guys know. But like I said, that's why I went ahead and emailed you things that I thought that may help you that you might miss. But make sure that you look in the class to see what's there. Okay. Oh, I see a question that I must have missed. I caught the end of the video. Will the video be posted so I can watch it from the beginning? Yes. I don't know when the testing will be. Your testing, they schedule that once you finish your program, like after you finish all your classes, then I believe it is Jana. She will schedule the test for you.
Is the test going to be online?
I believe that they have it at each of the campuses, I think. But I know that they do them at one of the campuses. But I can't tell you 100% of how they're going to actually do that with all the stuff that's going on. But I believe that you're going to go to a campus. But I do know that NCCT does give the option of doing it online. But I don't know if they're going to allow you guys to do it online. I don't know how it actually works. I just know that just from hearing about it, that they started letting people do it online. Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording, and then if you want to, anybody else want to hang back and ask questions, and I'll check the discussion, I can do that now.